Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the third and final part of working here on the Monster Zock. In the last episode where we last left off, I had the surfacer on there, black surfacer, and now as you can see, I've got some paint on there, but don't worry, this is not the final paint. Basically what I did was I just went in with the airbrush and just sort of essentially sketched out where I want the colors to be, because now I'm going to go in and hand paint everything. So I basically just did the layout. I want some kind of off-white tan colored spots around the top. This part, which is sort of looking like purplish, is actually going to be more red. I use like a wine color, and every time I use the Mr. Hobby's wine color, I always forget how purplish it is. It looks red on like the bottle, but I'm definitely going to use some different colors of red for that. So it'll be kind of mostly red, and then we'll have a kind of camo pattern kind of going in between the red and then like a bluish color around the bottom there. And then the cloth sections will be painted. I'm thinking probably, I think it might be a little bit boring to just paint them in just kind of like a tannish brown kind of color, but I feel like that's probably what I'll end up going with. For the cloth sections, maybe like a darker brown, probably ultimately. So basically that's the next step. I'm just gonna go ahead and get to work on just basically hand painting everything now. But the other bit that you'll notice I got started here is the base. So basically I just had a circle piece of cork I cut out, and then cut out a couple of sections to kind of stack on top of that, and then was basically just working on grinding that down to give us sort of like an uneven surface there. So I'm going to need to work on that some more. Once I'm finished with the base painting on the kit, then I'll go in and work on just kind of laying out the rest of the kind of sand and stone and gravel and stuff here, just for like a simple ground texture there on the base. And then ultimately that'll maybe have like a little bit of foliage, a little bit of water or something in there, meant to look like just some ground and dirt and rocks basically here underneath. And so I basically also had to trace the outline of where the feet are going to go, so I could dig out or grind out those spots a little bit deeper, because I want to make sure that the feet look like they're actually sunken in the ground rather than just standing right on top of the ground. So that's why there's a little bit of outline there, and the feet are going to be sunk in a little bit more. So we'll fill out the ground texture around the feet, and that should look pretty good, but should be relatively simple. Like I said, we need to finish the base painting first, so let's go ahead and get to it. All right, coming back along then, here I've got the base painting basically done how I want that. Ultimately, there's going to be like plenty more like wash and weathering over the top of that later on, but for now, ready to get started here on the base, or I guess I should say add more to the base. So I've got some just white glue thinned it down here, and you don't necessarily need gloves for handling white glue. Just got the glove on from spray painting for a different project earlier. I'm just gonna paint some of this on here. Could probably be using a different brush as well. Also, probably just pouring the glue on there might also be a quicker and easier way to go about this, but gonna start adding some stuff to this. So I need some glue down, some rocks and sand and stuff, so that will stick on there. So all right, so there is going to be our first layer. I am going to wait for that to dry, because once the glue is wet, you kind of need it to dry a little bit before you can add more onto that. I'm going to let that dry overnight. I'm going to come back tomorrow, add some more onto that, and then we can start painting it after that, just painting and like dry brushing the ground, just a little bit more like ground. We'll use some Mr. Hobby weathering paste, I think probably on that as well, to give it some different color variation and stuff. That stuff is something like a new product that I just recently kind of discovered and tried out for the first time, and I think that'll work really well for this as well, and also to bring up some of the colors of the ground up onto the feet a bit more. So for the first step, I'm liking how that's looking, just kind of the texture and the variation in that, just for our simple kind of base here. Simple, but it's quite large just because of the size of the model. And so we'll work on this some more, but for the time being, we're going to go ahead and let that dry, and we'll come back to it. All right, so next step is we're gonna get this nice and gunky here with some Mr. Weathering color ground brown. It's my favorite for this step. Make sure you shake it up really well. And then it's just a matter of giving this a good smattering kind of over the whole thing. This will fill in our like panel lining and also just give us kind of a good general kind of gunk wash over the whole thing. We'll go over the cleaning up step after this. All right, so now that we're thoroughly mucked up and we took all that time, actually it didn't take a whole lot of time, you're just kind of splattering it on there, but once you've taken the time to put all that on, now it's time to take it all off, or take an amount off, which will make it look how we want it to look. So I'm gonna start off just with a Q-tip, and just to kind of get off a good amount here, and I'm trying to go, remember, like down in the direction of gravity, not dropping the toothpick. But yeah, try to keep in mind the direction of gravity, as that's the way that, you know, dirt and soot and filth and anything else would naturally be drawn. I'm gonna just use a Q-tip here at first, probably a few Q-tips, a dozen or so, I would imagine, for a kit this large, and then I'll go over it with a brush as well, just to kind of blend it some more. But you can kind of start to get the sense here of how that's gonna look. I mean, you can just keep wiping it off, keep wiping it off. There's still, it's like, even if you wiped it off entirely, you're not gonna get rid of it entirely. It's still going to have like stained the paint a little bit anyway, for lack of a better explanation. But you can wipe off, you know, just a little bit and leave it like real grimy, or you can wipe off more, and it's just kind of up to you. All right, so once I finished off the base and the weathering on this guy, here is the finished result at long last. We're a little late for Halloween, but I think it's safe to say that I think I bit off a little bit more than I could chew, just in terms of trying to get this done by the deadline of Halloween. But anyway, it's still made for a fun project, making this Monster Zock, and I was at least able to get it finished here by the end of the year, and I'm happy with the results. You know, I went into this with a kit that was, the Zock was a design that I was certainly not a big fan of, and so my goal was just try to make it into something a bit more interesting, and more interesting certainly it is that, I think. You know, ultimately how it turns out, really kind of up to you. I think probably a lot of you out there might see this and think, hey, that's really cool, and then a lot of other people might think like, oh, what a mess, because I think it kind of could go either way. But I think that was part of what I wanted to do with it, I guess. Anyway, I wanted to make it into something more monstrous, and also try some new things. So, you know, there was a lot of that, and that's one thing that I just recently talked about in a different video. But it's certainly valuable just to try new things, and, you know, if it doesn't work out perfectly this time, at least I tried it, and I know kind of what to do differently, you know, what to do better or worse. You know, I don't know why you would want to do it worse, I suppose, but what to do differently the next time around. And so, and when it came to some like very large changes to the proportions, obviously there's a lot of that with this, in terms of lengthening those proportions quite a bit, filling a lot of that with some like quite large sections of like cloth covering in there. It's definitely something that I still need to work on a bit more, just kind of getting the cloth to really look good. I think with this one though, the challenge was that there was a lot of it. It's definitely easier to make those cloth sections look more realistic, look more natural when there's much smaller sections. And with this, there was quite a lot of it, so it's kind of challenging, at least for me. It's something that I'm just not really, you know, super well versed in yet. But I think those sections came out looking okay, just in terms of like the cloth effect that I was going for. And one of the things that I liked most about that was like the inset armor parts. Like there's like the circular armor parts that are kind of set into the forearms, the lower legs, and the midsection there especially. So I'm really happy with how those bits came out especially. Then something else that was kind of new to me too was doing a lot of just kind of this like random bit of kit bashing, where you're just kind of like putting on random bits that maybe don't necessarily have to like make sense like perfectly logically, but they look convincing enough that they like kind of fit into that part of the build by basically just using a bunch of different parts from different things. I think in some cases those parts work better than others in certain areas on the build, but again, this was a good learning experience for me. And then when it came to just like the weathering and the base, for the weathering, I left this like pretty well dirty. I think dirtier than almost anything that I've ever done. There's not many times that I've left anything quite this dirty, but obviously I wanted it to be like pretty filthy. And then in the mud as well, like with the base is ultimately, you know, what I did with the base is ultimately basically the same kind of stuff that I have done before, but a little bit differently, and this time using like the cork as a base to like make the shape of the base first, and then also using the Mr. Hobby weathering paste is something that I've never done before, and I really like how that came out for some of those bits down there. How I painted the base was a mix of just paint on the sand and then some of the weathering paste for the muddy sections, so like the kind of greenish, darkish, kind of more bits of the base that are meant to look more like kind of wet mud. That's made with the weathering paste, and then all the kind of like lighter brown and darker kind of parts of like the raised kind of more rocky areas, that is just painted there. So similar techniques basically to what I've done before, but always good to like get some practice in, get a feel like kind of for what works better than others in terms of just like trying out different techniques. Something that I'll definitely cover more in a future video. I mean, like there's loads of great videos online, basically from like Warhammer people mostly, showing how to make bases like this that will show you, you know, much better techniques with much more experience than I. But if you guys are interested to see just kind of how I created this in more detail, it's definitely something that I can cover more in another video, because I do have a couple of different projects coming up where I will basically have to do something similar with the base. So yeah, as just a kind of very experimental project, I think this was a lot of fun. I'm glad to see it come through to be finished, and I've got a lot more projects on the bench that I'm going to be working on. So, you know, it's always kind of good to be able to move on to the next thing, because another thing that I've talked about before, and a lot of other people have talked about, you know, of course, but about not letting perfect be the enemy of the good. This is far from perfect, but it's good enough for me. I'm happy with it. It was a fun project. Now it's on to the next one. And, you know, all you can do is just, you know, try to make improvements the next time around, and improve and improve and improve a little bit with each go, and you'll eventually get to a point where you're even happier, and then even happier with your builds. And then sometimes things don't work out and you're not happy with it, and then, you know, it's all part of the experience. So I enjoyed this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you think about this? How did it turn out? As always, appreciate all your support. Sorry that this was the Halloween project that was far from being done for Halloween, but at least we got it done by the end of the year. Next year, I'll try to maybe plan a bit more accordingly. But for now, if you guys want to check out some more model kits, paints, tools, and supplies, you can check the link in the video description to USA Gundam Store. Of course, lots of great stuff on there. And if you enjoyed the video, if you enjoyed the process of seeing this come to fruition, make sure to leave a like. If you're not yet subscribed, of course, you can subscribe right down there below the video as well. I appreciate all your guys' support. Thank you so much. Until next time, see y'all later. Bye, guys.